client last week in my office, and I had started to see her about 6 months ago. And prior to me meeting her, she had one retrieval. She has a very low AMH. She had one retrieval. She was doing frozen embryo transfer after PGS testing. This was prior to me seeing her, and she had only 2 eggs retrieved. They fertilized, but then none were able to go to testing. So I started seeing her 6 months ago. She had retrieval again, and after we'd been working together, she had 4 retrieved. 3 went to testing, 2 passed, frozen in the bank. And then she was going into another retrieval cycle, and I didn't hear from her. Turns out she had gotten COVID. And during that retrieval cycle, they retrieved 2. None even fertilized in the lab. So of course then she didn't have any for transfer. But the moral of this story is, let's talk about what happens when you get COVID while you're going through retrieval. I'm Nicole Stern. I'm the founder of Fertilista, and this is something that we've been closely monitoring in our practice for the past few years. Essentially, what it boils down to is when you get COVID, you're going to really want to look at where are you at in the retrieval cycle. And always you can call your doctor's office and talk to the nurse on call or talk to your physician and run it by them. But there are a few key intervals that we'll talk about today, what to do when you get a COVID positive and you're going through your IVF cycle. First, if you get your COVID positive and you're still in suppression, so you're taking Lupron or birth control pill, my suggestion is that you call your doctor and you actually push off the IVF cycle. Push off the retrieval, push off the stems, wait 1 to 2 months. Now, this is very disappointing for us, right? As the patient, we don't want to have to put off our cycle. But we have seen time and time again at Fertilista that a lot of times these cycles don't go as we had hoped. And we've seen the data. We've seen it over and over again. If you have any history with IVF, you're going to be able to compare the data from your COVID cycle versus your non-COVID cycles and be able to see a very stark difference. So if you're in the very beginning stages of your cycle and you still have time to cancel, I would suggest doing so. Let's say you got your positive and you have started 1 day of stims or 2 days of stims. Even then, I would call your IVF doctor and see if you can push it off. Now, if you have an insurance cycle, that might be very hard to do. Some insurance cycles, some insurance companies want to see that you've gone through X amount of cycles uninterrupted. If that's the case, you may, for insurance coverage, have to continue through. If you're paying out of pocket, I really recommend that you call your doctor right away and discuss the pros and cons and really think about putting off your IVF cycle. Let's say you're going through a fresh cycle, retrieval, and immediate 3-day or 5-day transfer. I would again see if you can cancel it, but if you're too far along, I would at least see if you could convert your fresh cycle over to a frozen with your doctor. So you have your retrieval, they freeze your eggs, or they fertilize them, freeze the embryos, and you go through a frozen embryo transfer later, once you're a month or 2 out from having your COVID diagnosis. Let's say you've done your stims, you just triggered, and you get your positive. Again, continue on, have your retrieval. By that point, your eggs have already fully matured. You're ready to have the retrieval. And again, let's see if we can convert it to a frozen if it isn't already a frozen. Now, you have gotten over COVID and you're wanting to know, what can I do to prep for my IVF transfer? This is a very key time. Even if you only have a month, 30 days, you can influence how COVID has affected your body and how you're going to prep for your transfer. So first thing, you are going to want to take an anti-inflammatory. So if you're inclined to do a medication, you can certainly do an Aleve, 1 tablet twice a day for 3 to 4 weeks. But here at Fertilista, we actually love holistic nutrition. And I would recommend that you take a turmeric supplement, at least 500 milligrams every day. This is going to have a profound impact on your systemic inflammation, not just in your body, not just in your lining, but also in your brain. So when you come out of COVID, you're going to feel really foggy, and it's going to be really hard to try to get back into your daily routine. It's going to be really hard to get back to eating healthy and lightly exercising while you wait for your transfer. Turmeric is actually going to prep your body, and it's going to lift that brain fog as well to help you get back to your wellness routine. Love turmeric. You're also going to want to incorporate a fish oil. That's going to help reduce inflammation. It's going to thin the blood. You're going to want to do at least 1,200 milligrams daily. That's a therapeutic dose. So that's 1,200 milligrams of EPA and DHA combined. So you have your turmeric, you have your fish oil, and I'd love to see a high-powered antioxidant. It can be something as simple as a shot glass of pomegranate juice a day, or it can be a green drink that you make at home, a red or green antioxidant. All these things that we just described are actually whole foods. They're not herbs, so you can run it by your reproductive endocrinologist, and he or she should be just fine with you taking it. So again, you have 3-4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks until your transfer. After you've had COVID, you're going to want to systemically reduce your inflammation. I hope you never have to go through this actually, but if you do, I hope this advice helps you. Please follow us. I'd love to see your next IVF cycle be a success. Nicole Stern, founder of Fertilista, and I hope to meet you soon.